Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /PettyRevenge, where people get small victories on those who've wronged them, and the stories are wild. And in today's episode, we've got scammers accidentally paying the person they're trying to scam, a power-tripping cop who ignores handicapped parking spots, and one OP tells a story about the time they took down a major crime ring. Guys, the stories are wild today, so sit back, relax, and as always, this voice is only on the DarkFluff YouTube channel, nowhere else. So recently, I was on a 4-hour train ride in a small compartment of 6 seats. One guy in a business suit joins me. I was sitting in the window seat, facing the direction the train was going, and he was sitting in the middle seat in the opposite direction. I watched a movie on my laptop with headphones on while he was typing away on his. And this is when his phone rang. The guy takes the call and he starts talking as if he was alone in the room. You know, asking how the caller's day's going, taking his sweet time to chat with them, laughing, swearing, all that stuff. Of course, I thought this was rude, but who knows? Maybe it's a friend who calls twice a year max. After 10 or so minutes, he hangs up. And sometime later, he gets another phone call. The guy literally says, No, it's fine, I have plenty of time. To which I thought, what the heck, man? I just start glaring at him. And when the guy notices, he kind of looks uncomfortable, but apparently not uncomfortable enough to leave the carriage or speed up his call. Not long after, the call ends and I can continue my movie in peace, until that son of a sausage takes out his phone and he calls someone. Like, he deliberately decides that I have to listen to one more of his conversations, instead of, maybe calling later or from somewhere else, or even maybe texting. While the guy's waiting for the caller to pick up, I finally speak up. And I ask him to take his calls in the corridor, to which I kid you not, the guy raises his stumpy little finger in order to quiet me down. He then shushes me and shakes his head. The exact shushing gesture that moms use when they're on the phone and their kid comes up to ask for a cupcake. Well, after being that rude, I had enough. I had zero desire to invest more energy in him by either confronting him again or hunting down the train conductor, but I did have an appetite for the chips I had in my bag, which I originally intended for vegging out on the sofa after arriving home. I open the bag and I start eating those bad boys. Now, I didn't smack my lips or my mouth, but I did bite and crunch those chips as noisily as I could. The dude starts glaring at me. He finishes his phone call after a few minutes, and I put the chips away. After some time, he gets another call. The guy accepts the call, and I take out the chips and start crunching again, to which he glares at me again, and I pretend not to notice. Then finally, after not being able to hear the person on the phone, he goes, Hey, wait a minute, I have trouble hearing you, give me a second. He then takes the call to the corridor, but not before shooting me another dissatisfied look. Seriously, gotta love that sense of entitlement, right? Like, I can talk out loud and bother you, but no, you can't do the same. And the whole shushing thing, guys, like, forget the chips crunching thing. I'd be watching my movies full blast after that, phone call or not. And this person comments, you should have pretended to call someone at the same time and then loudly repeat his side of the conversation every time he speaks. Obnoxious echo. So I got a new car a while back, and it was a huge deal for me. It was the very first new car I've ever bought. I'm almost 30, so it's not a big deal for most of my friends. My one friend, Mary, though, would always roll her eyes when I talked about my old car because it was so crappy, and she would say something like, get a new car, as if it was as easy as that. So after years of saving, I decided to buy a new car. I was driving my sister and roommates all around because it was a new car I was excited about. So naturally, I offered to drive to Mary's house. My sister asked if I had told Mary about my new car, and I said I hadn't because I figured Mary wouldn't care. I also knew it would hurt my feelings if she didn't care because that's what you do for friends. You check out their new car and applaud their success. I didn't want to find out if she cared or not because I knew it could get my feelings hurt. So my sister calls Mary while we're driving over, and I told her that I bought a new car and to come check it out. Mary waits for us to pull up and she opens the door. She then sticks her head out and she says, "Oh, hey, you're here. Hey, we're training the puppy to not jump on people, so don't pet him when you get inside." She then closes the door without looking at my car. Now, my feelings were hurt, but I also knew I was being sensitive. I also thought there would be no value in telling her my feelings were hurt, because I didn't want to have to sit through her saying, "Wow, nice," looking at my car when it would be so clearly forced. I figured if she ever got another new car, I would be just as petty and return the same energy. I also thought it would take years for her to get a new car because she only recently got hers. Well, 2 months after I bought my car, Mary's hit by a drunk driver and totaled while sitting outside of her house. Today, she offers to pick me up in her brand new car, which she bought less than a week ago, to go to a mutual friend's pool party. I got in without mentioning anything about the car. When she mentioned the car at all, I ignored that particular topic and I focused on something else. When we got to the pool party, the host comes out to ooh and ah over the new car, but I just walked inside. On the drive home, she couldn't hold it in anymore and she was way less subtle. She asks me, "Hey, why aren't you saying anything about my car? This car gets 30 miles per gallon." And this is when I said, "Mine gets 40. Then she tries showing off her camera and I just said, "Oh, that's nice," very unenthusiastically. I could tell it bothered her to no end. It was tiny and it was petty, and maybe a better friend wouldn't do it, but I can't be the bigger person anymore. Again, some people are all me, and who cares about you, right? And guys, this story would have been downright hilarious if OP and friend had the same make and model. But yeah, with someone like that, would you really consider them a friend? And this person comments, "I had a friend like this. She was never happy for other people's happiness. I got a new car and she called it the Golden Goose as it was bronze colored. I bought my first home and she couldn't be bothered to come see it on my birthday." And the thing is, she did this with everyone. I finally told her I couldn't have her negativity in my life anymore. It'll be 10 years this September, and it did take a few years to get her negativity out of my head, and it's been glorious. When my friends, who are still friends with her, start talking about how she's driving them crazy, I just smile and nod because she's no longer my problem. At some point, you'll need to recognize the people that add no value to your life and move on. So this happened years ago. My dad's a paraplegic, but he's able to drive a specially modified car. He also needs the handicap spots, so there's enough room to maneuver his wheelchair. One day, he and I decide to go watch a movie at the local mall. But when we get there, we find our usual parking spot occupied by a police car. My dad decided that the best alternative spot would be right behind the offender. He wouldn't be blocking the road, only that one spot. We then proceed to go and watch a movie, and we had a nice meal at a restaurant. We took our sweet time too. About 5 hours later, we decide it was time to head home. So as we left the mall, my dad hung back to pay for the parking, while I went ahead to open up the car to load him and his wheelchair. When I approached the car though, I was immediately confronted by a steaming buffalo of a man. The guy asked me, "Is this your car?" To which I responded, "It sure is." He then went off like an exploding rotten whale carcass. He called me every possible swear word that his pea-sized brain could summon. As I walk around the car, I saw that he had plastered about 20 parking tickets to the windshield. It's also worth noting that we didn't have a handicap sign in the window at the time. I just calmly let him finish his tirade as I wait for my dad to join me, which happened about a minute later. I swear, the look on his already bovine face made the whole tongue lashing absolutely worth it. He immediately starts backtracking and apologizing, trying to cover himself, but the damage was done. Apparently, he was just popping into the pharmacy to pick up something. As he started ripping the tickets off the windshield, my dad stopped him to ask what he was doing. He tried to play it off, but my dad insisted that he would be delighted to have his day in court for this one. In the end, after some truly pathetic groveling, we decided to let him off with a warning. And I also want to note that 1, this happened in South Africa in the late 90s. Number 2, we were well known to mall security because they would always assist my dad in getting in and out of his car when he went alone. And lastly, the police officer would have a hard time explaining to the towing service why he was parked in a handicapped spot, especially if the mall security was around to vouch for my dad. Okay, OP's dad letting the cop go with a warning was a huge power move, guys. And who else is shocked that the officer waited 5 hours for OP and dad to return? But I guess if he did have them towed, he'd have to explain why he was in that spot in the first place, right? Hopefully the cop learned a lesson after that. Many years ago, I lived in an old house that was just inside the wrong side of the tracks, if you know what I mean. The house was affordable. We had a number of fruit trees, and for the most part, being right on the edge, our neighbors were quiet and we looked out for each other. The house was on a corner lot with a detached garage on the side. The garage looked like crap. The driveway was sunken in about a foot below the level of the grass and curb, but it was obviously a driveway, so we park our car there. 2 groups of people would regularly block the driveway, even if our car was parked there. The people going to the Catholic church across the street, and the guests of the drug dealer next door on the side the driveway was on. The guy was a younger guy, maybe mid-20s, living with his grandma, growing weed in the backyard. And honestly, I didn't care. Leave me alone, and I'll leave you alone. At least the guy's guests would leave quickly or just move if I went outside to the car. But one night, I get home and there's a party going on and my driveway's blocked. I honk a few times, but no one comes. My yard's crappy anyways, so I say, F it. I want to get inside and go to bed, so I drive over the curb across the grass, and then 3-point park in my driveway. This is when the drug dealer guy comes over cussing at me, claiming I almost hit his truck, to which I want to note I wasn't even close. I just point to my dash cam and he calls me a few names and leaves. The truck gets moved quickly. The next day, I buy a burner phone. Many of his guests are from local businesses with the business name and number on the truck. His clients are plumbers, landscapers, things like that. Vehicles that don't look out of place, sitting parked randomly in the neighborhood. Cue my petty revenge. Every time I saw them parked nearby, as I could see them pretty well from one of my backyard windows, blocking my driveway or not, I called the number. I'd claim to be a member of the church, monitoring the cameras and just making sure they're working on a house nearby, because I wouldn't want them getting caught up in the drug sting. About half the time, I'd be speaking to someone directly in the vehicle, and they would quickly drive away, even if the drug dealer guy was walking out. Sometimes, I'd get a receptionist who would be confused as to why their truck was there, but it would still get moved quickly. After about a month of this, and maybe 20 phone calls, none of the neighbor's guests parked in front of my driveway again. He met them around the opposite corner, away from the church's cameras. And for those thinking I should have called the cops, we literally had a sheriff's substation around the corner, about a 600-foot walk away. They didn't care, and I'm pretty sure the neighbors sold to cops too. They were just smart enough to not be obvious about it. So I sell on eBay, and sometimes I buy in bulk to flip. Recently, I spot a listing for a bunch of TI Inspire calculators marked as school property. They were listed for parts only, with the condition, turns on but needs additional equipment. I've sold a lot of calculators, and usually, if they turn on, they're fine. So I send the seller a polite message asking why extra equipment was needed. And the guy sends me back a response saying, "Just for you to ask this question shows your intelligence. LOL. Bored?" He sent this completely unprovoked. I told him I wasn't being rude, just curious. And that's when he doubles down and he says, "If you were smart enough to read the description, you wouldn't ask anything. I'm not entitled to educate you." And yes, he spelt it etiquette. Then, he says he's gonna block me so he doesn't waste his time. Now normally, I just roll my eyes and move on, but I didn't for this seller. I looked at his negative reviews and apparently he does this to everyone and is very racist about it. There's even a negative feedback complaining that he canceled an order before shipping. And he replied it's because he was a Honduras scammer or something like that, and he makes fun of people who speak Spanglish. So I dig, and I find that his listing descriptions has his phone number. I Google that phone number, and I find he runs another eBay store under a company name that claims to do electronics recycling and refurbishing. I find out he's selling different inventory of high-ticket medical devices, like electrotherapy units, ultrasound heads, laser therapy applicators, the kind that require FDA 510K clearance and can't legally be sold to the public without proper authorization. eBay has an entire policy banning these unless you're an approved medical seller. So I spend some time compiling a list of his priciest, clearest violations. I cross-check them with the FDA's device classification database, and I match them to eBay's medical devices and accessories restricted list. Then, I reported them all through eBay's Item Not Allowed category, attaching the exact model names and classification codes. Fast forward to this morning, eBay emails me to say that 6 of his most expensive listings are gone, including multiple $2,000 plus medical therapy devices, electrotherapy systems, and vital accessory packs. They even removed some 4 parts only listings, which eBay still bans if they're restricted devices. In fact, the total amount for these listings removed came out to be $18,140. I'm not saying I sank his store, but I probably ruined his week. So here's the moral of the story. If you're gonna be smug and block people for asking questions, make sure your business model can survive someone actually reading the rules. And also, if you're gonna do that to someone, don't underestimate how much time someone has. Like, this isn't just petty revenge, it's social justice, in my opinion. And if you guys enjoyed that scammer getting messed with, oh boy, this next OP scams a scammer, guys. How does that even work? Listen to this. So recently, I've been more and more into fitness and buying used gym equipment on Facebook Marketplace. My next big purchase was gonna be a top-of-the-line rowing machine, but my wife might not have approved the price of it. I finally found a deal on a great machine at the low cost of $750, instead of the usual $1,500. Now, maybe my excitement at this deal made me miss a few early red flags, but this was way too good to miss. I start messaging this person, and luckily for me, the rowing machine's still available. We start planning for a pickup the next morning, and this is where the first red flag appears, which I brushed off out of excitement. The person required a deposit of $250 since the last person never showed up. I did question it, but that person said that she would never scam someone out of their hard-earned money. But there was no way in heck that I was giving a deposit for a pickup the next day, and also a seller on Facebook. So I offered to do an Interac transfer to her, but but I'd only give her the password once I arrive in order to accelerate the transaction, and the person agreed. Fast forward a few hours and she sends me a message that she hasn't received the transfer yet, which is odd because usually it takes maybe 15 minutes. So I check my banking app and all looks good. So I tell her, be patient. About 20 minutes later, I get an email from Interact saying that my transfer failed and to retry with this link. And at this point, there's scammer bells ringing in my head. As I'm looking at this fishy email, at the very same time, this person replies, sometimes those transfers fail, and you need to try again through an email. I mean, how to make it more obvious you sent the email. So on an iPhone, you can long press a link to get a preview of it without actually clicking the link. So I did it with the email and it redirected to a fake Interact website made with Wix. And Wix is like a free-to-use, build-your-own-website tool. So now I'm in full-on detective mode and I find way more red flags. Number 1. The Facebook profile was made in 2022. Number 2, the address leads to an empty lot on a road. Number 3, in the pictures, the manhole covers aren't even from my country. And number 4, this person wouldn't understand everyday expressions that we use where we live, which is Quebec. Now this is where my petty revenge starts. Because of this scammer, I've lost $3.50 because I had to cancel my Interact transfer. I had one goal at this point, and it was to find out where this person lived and waste their time. So I start creating my own fake e-transfers, and using Grabify, I create every link in the email to be a link that sends me their location and just redirects them to the Interact main page. I even looked at old emails I received from other transfers, and I used them as templates for my new fake ones. After many back and forths, this person finally clicked on a link, and I got their IP address and location, which is in Benin, Africa. I then asked them how the weather was in their city, and they stopped answering, so I went to bed. I woke up at around 2 a.m. to the sound of my baby crying, and as I was putting her back to sleep, I look at my phone to find multiple messages. The messages said, "Oh, you know Benin. Have you ever been here? Have you ever worked with people of Benin?" So I start answering back that I'd only ever been to Morocco and I've never had the chance to work with people from Benin. She then asked if I would be interested to work with them for a 25% cut of all transactions, aka a money mule where I would receive the money and then take my cut and send them the rest. I told them I'd be interested with the goal of wasting their time, but I said since they already tried to scam me, I don't think I can trust them. So I would only consider it if they send me $50 as a sign of good faith. Of course, she said that wasn't possible and I should just trust them. I replied saying I thought they were a serious business, or maybe she just didn't have the decision-making power to make it work with me. I guess this got her because she sent me her boss's email to deal with him. Once I got in touch with him, he said he would only do it if he sends $50 and I send back $25 as a trial for the transferring system and that he trusts me. And this is when I replied, I would never scam somebody out of their hard-earned money. So then, he sends me a $50 transfer. I was so hesitant with this last link because it seemed actually legitimate. I figured if I clicked on it and it redirects to my banking app, it was actually real. And it turns out they actually sent me $50. Right after I accepted the money, I blocked them from every place they contacted me, and I took my wife out to a nice little dinner. Be safe and don't get scammed. So yesterday morning, I received an email notification from my credit card company stating a transaction for $1,500 at MedSpa was declined, and another stating it was approved. I immediately called the credit card company to report a fraudulent charge. Turns out, my cards had fraudulent charges over the past 3 weeks, with purchases including various hotels in my area, eBay, gas station, self-storage, and a moving truck rental. And the thing is, I rarely use this card. Fortunately, my credit card company flags all the recent charges and closed my card. This morning, my significant other had a doctor's appointment in the same city as a hotel purchase made yesterday. After the doctor's, my boyfriend asked me what I thought we should do today. I just said, well, you wanted to shop for some new shoes, or we can swing by this hotel up the street and see if the credit card thieves are still there. The amount seemed like it would cover 2 or 3 days, so my boyfriend and I go to the hotel to see if the people were still checked in and let them know that the card was stolen and the charges would be reversed. The front desk lady was pissed. She was able to find the reservation by card number, and she noted that that person had kept changing cards to pay for the room. Of course, they didn't tell me the room number, much to my boyfriend's dismay. And I also want to add that my boyfriend was hoping to get a room key to take their stuff. He wanted to go John Wick on them, which I thought, LOL, right. I called the credit card company and they asked me to call the police. I called the sheriff's department and they arrived within 20 minutes. I was surprised they even came. I gave them my report, ID, and credit card. The deputy asked if I wanted to prosecute, and I said yes. They then went inside and spoke to the front desk, who provided them the invoice. My boyfriend and I just wait outside in front of the lobby, and then, through the automatic sliding doors, I hear the front desk lady yell, "That's him! He's trying to run!" Fast forward, and this dude with a bull terrier and several bags gets placed in handcuffs. He gets brought outside, searched, and the dog gets cuffed to a trash can. And then another little guy gets brought out in cuffs. A third deputy arrives and brings out a fancy-looking lady with a face full of fillers, 2 suitcases, and a Coach backpack. The 4 officers start going through the backpacks on the hood of the car. We see passports, IDs, credit cards. They then pull out a big credit card printing machine and a laptop, and they pull out a Ziploc bag filled with drugs. And the cop exclaims, "Here we go." 2 of them go back to search the hotel room, and they bring down 2 bags with more drugs, a scale, 4 car keys, and a big wad of cash. Unfortunately, none of the cars were in the parking lots, and the perp said they'd been traveling by Uber. The cops contacted one of the thief's friends to pick up the dog, who arrived pretty quickly. It was an older dude with tattoos, flashy jewelry, and an old luxury SUV. Don't worry, we got his pictures and license plates. The deputies then gave me all the paperwork and told me that one of the guys said they stole my card off the internet. I would have guessed that they used a scanner while I was at a fair a few weeks ago. I find it so weird because I haven't used my card online in almost a year. Anywho, I walk inside to give the front desk a copy of the incident number, and then I remember something else. I remember seeing another transaction for a storage unit that was made yesterday and 2 charges at a rental truck company. I go back outside and I talk to the sheriff, and I asked him if he wanted me to figure out where that was. I was able to track down the storage location to a city about 15 minutes away, but no can do on the trucks. I called the storage place and they confirmed that a payment was made with my card, but they wouldn't give me the unit number. From there, the sheriff said it was out of their jurisdiction and they would try to get a search warrant, but that might take a while. However, it might be helpful if I made a police report with the other city. So with nothing better to do, I drove my ass over there and I make another police report regarding the storage unit. Once again, not only petty revenge, but justice getting served, guys, and talk about being in the right place at the right time. And a lot of people are commenting that with the amount of stuff the cops found, these guys are gonna get locked away for quite some time. And that's why you don't mess with others. You don't know how petty some people will get or how far they'll go to bring someone down. Case in point. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /PettyRevenge. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/malicious compliance episode where people again are getting taught lessons they won't forget. Guys, go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.